Hello again, and welcome to Cisco's Inside Product Series. We have some very exciting guests today. So we've got Tom Gillis, who runs our data center and security business. We've got Will Eatherton, who runs our engineering for the data center business. And then we've got Kevin Wollenweber, who runs all of our data center product management business, which is everything from hyperscaler to neo clouds to enterprise to service providers, and on and on. So welcome, gentlemen. Tom, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you.
What is happening in the industry as it pertains to AI and infrastructure? Give us the macro picture first.
Yeah, sure. Everyone knows the power of AI. It's amazing. The nature of the applications are fundamentally different than applications that we've lived with for decades. And they're really, the way to think of it is they're parallel. So that means that an application doesn't have to fit in a box. And in fact, in both Kevin and Will's world, a lot of these high-end applications, we're dealing with a single AI application that can span more than just one box, more than just one rack, more than one row. Jeetu, these things run across a whole data center,
right?
And multiple data centers.
Yep.
So in this world, the network becomes the backplane of these applications. And it's kind of akin to what the PCI bus was in the world of a server in a box. Remember,
Yep.
the PCI bus is the guts of the system? Now, all of a sudden, the networks are playing that role. That puts very special requirements on the network, and I think that's one of the reasons why.
No matter how good the GPU is, if it's not networked,
dude, the network has got to be better, right?
Yeah,
and so that's why there's so much emphasis on the network. Now, we tend to think of this in terms of what we call a front-end network, which is the network that has lived in a data center for, decades. But when a GPU is talking to another GPU, that's what we call a back-end network. And I think both Kevin and Will provide perspective on back-end network, front-end network. How do we turn this to make it easy for customers to be able to deploy these AI applications and not get bogged down in some of this minutia? And that's, I think, the Cisco advantage.
So I'm going to go to Kevin first. Is walk us through architecturally what changes, and what specifically do we need to make sure that we're keeping in mind as this architecture shifts in this agentic world?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think Tom laid it out really well, but a lot of what we build when we build out AI infrastructure are the same piece parts and components to what we've been building in traditional data centers. You have compute, and you have network, and you have storage, but now you have multiple networks, and you have different capacities and need to access storage. And so you can think of taking the components we had, adding a ton of complexity, and then having to have it all orchestrated and managed and operating like a single system. And so there's two main areas of investment. One, we have to really focus on the piece parts and the components, and I'll talk about that in a second. But then we also have to focus on orchestration and management and making it simple and easy to use, because you don't want customers focused on, how does this GPU talk to that GPU, and how do I optimize the fabric to make it communicate well? You want them to focus on running AI workloads and getting value out of it.
Okay, so when you go into a customer, how should the customer be thinking? Because most customers are using hyperscalers for their AI workloads. And then now what you're starting to see is these workloads, especially in inferencing, are getting pretty distributed. Some of them are getting local. You might have a desk side computer that's running agents. You might have your own enterprise data center that you're doing stuff. What is the playbook on what an enterprise should be doing to go out and keep the token costs low, the outputs high, and the complexity as low as possible so that they can actually drive this at the velocity they need?
Yeah, well, it's kind of crazy. Although we've been talking about AI spend for what feels like decades, it's only been the last few years that we've seen this massive increase in spend. And most of that spend is with the hyperscalers, with the neoclouds, and with the model builders training the models themselves. So now we have these amazingly powerful models, and what's evolving is this world of inference. So people actually using the models. And when you say things like agentic workflows, it's really leveraging these models that have been trained on a certain set of functions and using them to perform tasks. And so that architecture actually looks fundamentally different. And yeah, we've been doing all the training in these massive data centers in cloud and in neoclouds, but a lot more of this for inference is going to move either on-prem in the customer. You talked about having little things on people's desktops to be able to run agents, and that makes the network even more critical in how they manage and how they operate these workflows.
So Will, thinking about the back-end network and the front-end network, you are architecting these things for customers and for our own systems. And you're starting to also see that there's a lot of kind of semi-custom work that gets done in extremely large-scale data centers. Mm-hmm. Talk us through what your learnings are and what should customers takeaway about Cisco as it pertains to the kind of things that you're doing, and why should they be
Sure.
as excited as you and I are?
So first of all, just to hit that we really are seeing three distinct customer engagements today. So hyperscale for AI, we've been engaged for multiple years now. And in that context, it's a very focused sort of high performance networking where we're going in with our Silicon One based systems, a range of our software, and we've been working together with those hyperscalers to really tune and get the highest performance across that. And that, again, has been several years. What we're seeing in the last 12 months is obviously more engagement both with NeoCloud class of customers as well as enterprises.
And define NeoCloud.
So NeoCloud would be folks who essentially their business is selling a narrow set of as a service, whether it's bare metal or it's more virtualized, and so they're a smaller sliver of what has been the IaaS cloud providers. And
so companies like CoreWeave
Yes.
are examples of NeoCloud.
Yes, and sometimes it's pretty coarse as far as like they carve up sets of servers that they will then lease or allocate for a year, and sometimes and a lot more. The higher value is when they can be more flexible in how they allocate in that. So in all of these, one of the key things Kevin mentioned is the number of potential different networks can be daunting, and so you can have what's been our traditional front end really stems out of what's been a traditional data centering with a lot of feature and functionality, and how do you connect servers to servers, servers to internet, servers to storage. That's the front end. The back end is been InfiniBand in the early days. It's pretty clear in the last 12 months that is now Ethernet. Everyone, including NVIDIA, is pushing that. But we also have management networks, sometimes distinct storage networks. And so, having a strategy around how you're going to operate across these is a key aspect and something we engage with customers. Also, what we're now seeing is a new trend, which is as inference is becoming a bigger topic, and it's not as simple as the NVIDIA. They've had these reference architectures and superpods, if you've seen from GTC. That has been a repeatable pattern for the last couple of years, but now in the next 12 months, we're seeing more with the inference accelerators. That is complicating these architectures, and I think the key commonality is going to be Ethernet is what we're seeing, connecting accelerators to GPUs. Also storage. So storage to accelerators, storage to GPUs is requiring higher bandwidth. So those front-end networks are requiring increased bandwidth is what we're seeing with customers. So, thinking about, planning these architectures, having flexibility, and the operational simplicity is a key topic. And I'd say that's common across both. Even though there's some differences, it's common across enterprises and NeoCloud.
Jeetu, one of the things I think is interesting, you listen to these two guys talk, they spend a lot of time with these top of market customers that are doing like crazy things. And the learnings that we Cisco have from that experience, we're folding into products to make this stuff usable for the enterprise.
Right.
And isn't that like our opportunity?
So actually, let's talk about that, Tom.
Yeah.
So take a step back and tell me why a customer would be interested in getting something from Cisco versus a competitor. Why are we different? What do we do that is a structural advantage in the market?
Yeah.
And how should a customer parse the value that we provide versus someone else provides?
Yeah, these guys can probably articulate this better, but I think it comes down to really simply, customers don't want different little bits and pieces of network that have to be managed differently. Right? Historically, we've seen that. Remember when telephones were totally different networks? Ultimately, Ethernet subsumes it, and customers want a single set of management, a single set of hardware that can run all this stuff. And I think that's our opportunity: is these back-end networks, front-end networks. With the programmability of Silicon One, we can address all of these needs with your network. It's not a different diddly bob, and I think that's going to really, really matter in the near future.
So I have an example from the last 6 months in that. So we were working with Quant at the beginning of this year in the Cisco Live Amsterdam time. Yep. One of the feedback we got was that InfiniBand, InfiniBand, again, very respected technology that everyone's clear now won't be the winner, but they did have a feature with this partition ID that allowed jobs to have distinct allocation from a tenancy, so you could have both separation of resources as well as some security benefits of that isolation. And the feedback, we were brainstorming with them, it'd be great if Ethernet had that, and obviously there should be nothing that InfiniBand has that Ethernet doesn't have. So we went and architected that, and then we were actually able, with Silicon One P4 programmability, to add that feature in our Silicon One software layer. Since February, we then added that into our Nexus OS layer. We then added in a top level for configuration and visibility into Nexus Dashboard. And actually at Cisco Live recently, we were able to show that feature. And that is actually, we've had interest both from neoclouds, where they want to have tenancy, where the first layer of tenancy is my customer. Second layer of tenancy could be, job ID that they're working through. But there's also enterprises that want to have, some layer of separation. And so this is a very specific example, but I think it really helps illustrate that full Cisco stack, and also the agility that we can move at when we have all those pieces together versus, hey, we have to go to another company and work with them on the silicon side, or if it's a fixed chip and it takes 2 years to spin that. So I like that example.
So I just want to make sure that I put some emphasis on what you just said, because it's extremely important. One of the big reasons that at least I've seen customers wanting to do a great deal of work with us is we are one of the only vertically integrated platforms that is a co-designed full stack. And what I mean by that is silicon and optics at the foundation, systems hardware, systems software, platforms for security and observability and data, applications that we build, models that we build, and then agents that are built on top of that. That whole thing as a co-designed full stack. And what you just articulated was the fact that you were able to deliver that was because of the fact that we actually built every single component of it. So we're almost like the Apple of the infrastructure world, where we build the hardware, we build the software, we build the chip, and all of them just kind of are designed to work with each other. And the way that they work well is so magical. And because we work with the largest of the largest customers, which are the hyperscalers and neoclouds and sovereign clouds, and service providers, we're able to take all the learnings from there, to your point, Tom, and then make sure that you can take it all the way to the enterprise. So that's at the highest level. Now let's go into the details. What were, in your mind, Kevin, because you're the product guy that's setting the direction for our data center, the key priorities that you wanted to go drive on our entire data center business, and let's specifically talk about enterprise here.
Yeah.
So what are we doing in the enterprise? Firstly, what do you see as trends in the enterprise, and what specifically did you say you wanted to go out and prioritize? How was that delivered, and what's next?
Yeah, I think since we're kind of started at the top and moving down, I want to talk about that orchestration and management function and the ability to get up and running fast. So if you think about the biggest concerns a lot of enterprises have around moving to more and more of these AI technologies and bringing them on-prem is, unfortunately, right now, they're still expensive. And so nobody wants to make a decision to bring a bunch of hardware and technology in and then have it sit idle and not be able to run it. And so I think there's some amazing innovation that we'll talk about in silicon itself and what we're doing there. But in general, what customers want to be able to do is bring the technologies to their premise, get them up and running, and actually be able to show a real ROI for running AI workloads. Right? They're not deploying infrastructure for the sake of deploying infrastructure. They're deploying it so that they can actually bring some of those workloads on-prem, deploy some of those inference and agentic workflows that we talked about, and do it at a cost structure that's much, much lower than what they're able to do today in cloud. And so we've been prioritizing partnerships with some of our large partners like NVIDIA that have access to many of these AI technologies, but then bringing our simplification of the network. We've been building networks for over 40 years now. And the network started with two professors that were trying to get computers to talk together, and this is just a extrapolation of that problem space.
And so, so give me a set of priorities that you actually set up to say, these are the things so it seems like one of them was, okay, simplify the management.
Yeah.
And you've done the simplification of the management in a multitude of different ways, because you've said Nexus Dashboard and ACI got converged.
Well, think about it that way. Like, take the same technologies they're already building those front ends with today and extend them to AI, so that if they want to start to run AI workloads, it's not bringing in another networking technology, another operational tool, and another set of experts that have to go figure out how to make that work. They can just extend the existing network infrastructure they have, and so their experts that run the network today can run that AI infrastructure.
And then you also made sure that that was fully integrated into Cisco Cloud Control, which became our unified management plane.
Yep.
And Will, you were one of the spiritual leaders internally of making that happen. Walk us through the calculus on that. Why did you do that? What was so magical and important about it?
So I think the key, and we've been working, as you mentioned, to bring the Nexus portfolio together. When we go cross-domain, some of the big gaps Cisco has historically had, it's not just about a UI interface. It is about things like I want automation to have a single gateway point. So being able to bring together that common API gateway and start to normalize the cross controller. And then the other part was a consistent way to provide an AI front end with new interface models with AI Canvas, and not having to build that separately into each product. And so with the Cisco Cloud Control architecture that we put together in the last year, the first pass easy-ish is to get the SaaS products to be able to then be more seamless with Cisco Cloud Control. The other piece that we've been working on, which engineering-wise has been more work, but is a big win, is when we also now start to have the on-prem controllers be able to be cloud tethered and still have that Cisco Cloud Control front end. And so things like Nexus dashboard being able to have, and many customers have more than one of these. They may have global deployments. We have customers that might have dozens and dozens of controllers. Being able to have that then pulled together and have everything from common inventory, topology, being able to put together the beginnings of a unified EVPN fabric that will work across our Catalyst area, our data center area in a cohesive fashion, building upon each of those sub-products. So these are some of the key aspects, and it definitely is the customer reception has been amazing, and so now we can working on our roadmap for the next 6 or 9 months to continue to fill out these features.
So this was a very important contribution that you made, because you were one of the big kind of drivers of, hey, I need to have this BGP EVPN fabric that was like a data center and a campus branch network should just be able to get configured in one click. And we showed that demo. That was a live demo on stage at Cisco Live where they were able to do that. What is the benefit for the customer, and what's the ROI for the customer when that happens? Any one of you can talk about
automation.
it.
You hit the nail on the head there. Like customers just want to solve a problem.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that my telephones that are out in the
But
branch
why is it
office-
important for my data center and my campus branch
Here's why.
network to be
I've got
connected?
telephones that are out in the branch, and I want those telephones to talk to the call manager. I do not want those telephones to be logging into the source code repository or the finance system. The network is the way to do that. You want to set up a segment that goes from the data center, from the application out to the telephones, and we make that super, super easy.
Yeah. So
Right.
so a customer may not necessarily want to create a single fabric in the definition of a fabric, but to the point Tom's making, being able to have them connect through what we call border gateways, and then be able to have policy that extends from an application running in the data center to a laptop or an endpoint that's in the campus. That becomes, we stitch it together in a way that now is feasible, and we can do everything from better telemetry and reporting to better ways to insert policy on top of that. And so this is something that we've been asked from customers for a couple of years, and frankly, it's taken us too long. But now that we're here, we're going to move as quickly as possible in filling out that functionality.
And
Go ahead.
In a post-Mythos world, this kind of it's segmentation is what that is, right? This kind of segmentation is more foundational than ever, because we have to be working on the assumption that the attackers are in. There's just so many vulnerabilities. They're finding ways to get in. Let's make it hard for them to move around.
Yeah.
EVPN. And
You're trying to prevent lateral movement.
Correct. And there's no better way to do that than in the network and putting segments in place that are like almost like common sense. We make that easy to deploy.
So if you were to, let's switch to Mythos, because Mythos is a pretty important phenomenon of what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And specifically in the data center,
Yeah.
it gets to be,
Scary.
superbly scary when something goes awry. So you've got Mythos. Mythos has identified a bunch of vulnerabilities. Your data center infrastructure might have some of those vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
How do we help customers?
Yeah. Ouch.
What should customers do?
Yeah. So I'm going to argue, never miss a good crisis to drive change. So let's not sugarcoat it. Like this Mythos thing is a crisis for our customers, because the way that we as an industry have been working is that we would create a data center design, prove that data design, harden it, and then you don't change it for like
Leave it there as long as you possibly can.
exactly, for like ever, right? So like, literally every couple of years, you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to update this thing only when you have to. And now in this post-Mythos world, it's not unreasonable.
Constantly evolving.
Exactly, right? Now, these concepts are not radical here. Like in the cloud, that's how it works. That's how Kubernetes apps works. Lots of little tiny changes instead of one big giant gut-wrenching change. So if we can all get there, I think we're all gonna be better off. But we have to adapt the way we've been thinking about managing infrastructure. And unfortunately, Cisco, we're on our toes here, not our heels, because we've been thinking about this for a while. How do we manage vulnerabilities in critical inline high performance systems like a switch, a router, a firewall? And so, one piece of the puzzle, and I want to point out, this is only one piece of the puzzle. We have this capability we call Live Protect. And so Live Protect, you can think of it as a finger in the dike. It's an emergency control that can be applied on a system. And the intent is that it is very, very targeted, very, very specific, and lightweight. So as customers get comfortable with these capabilities, you'll be able to put them on a system without a reboot for a system. And our design intention is we want to go there. You don't even need a change control window. Like these things are just going to automatically go in. But Will, I'm going to ask you this question. Mm-hmm. It's a kind of a fake question. Is Live Protect a patch?
So no, it's not a patch. It is.
He passed.
Will's answering very seriously.
Thank God.
It's not a patch. It is a control, compensating control, and it is something that at the next patch window, then you'll want to replace with a full patch.
Okay.
One thing I want to add to what you said, Tom, is things like Live Protect. I'm excited about as a technology that I think is going to. We are going to have the world has changed. Things will be different for the next several years, but in the short term, I do want to really convey that we have confidence in our core network OSs, iOS XE, iOS XR, and XOS. We've been doing a lot of hardening of these NOSes for several years. We've also been working to improve the agility, our ability to address. So, while we definitely are seeing a without getting any specific numbers, we are seeing
step function.
We're seeing a step function. I've been very happy across the engineering team to see the rate, and it does involve engineers working weekends and such, but the rate of working through those, and that we will be able to, really sort of this first wave in the upcoming, patch cycles, we do believe we'll be able to put out quite a bit to help address that and get ahead of, attackers in that standpoint.
I actually think this is the first time that you actually have a real shot at adversaries not always having the advantage like they have in the past, because they have to be right once. Yeah. The defender has to be right every single time. Yeah. This is the first time that you'll see kind of a flip where I think I give a lot of credit to Anthropic on the fact that they did Project Glasswing. They gave companies time to go out and make sure that they got hardened.
It's material.
It's material, right? Yes. And what that'll do, if we can continue to keep going down this path, I think the defenders might actually have a very durable, sustained advantage over the adversary.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe like this becomes a very different world, especially as you write code in memory-safe languages. I've actually, Will, this is something that you and I have talked about, but I was with CNBC recently, and one of the things that they asked me was, hey, so what is your vision of what AI is going to be able to do in the next couple of years? And I've basically told them that, hey, look, there's going to be no such thing as legacy code and a legacy company, because we will have eradicated all legacy code from Cisco within less than 24 months. And I think that's a very, very realistic goal to go out and get to.
I love your optimism, and I do agree with you in the kind of medium term. In the near term, it's going to be rough sledding, right? Because this isn't a Cisco problem. This is a software problem.
This is a software problem, yeah.
And every customer is going to be inundated with every single vendor for every single device that has software. The thermostat in your conference room is like, needs an emergency update, right? So it's going to be crazy. And I think, I'm proud of the fact that Cisco is, I think, leading the industry here, and we're trying to bring a mindset shift, which is CI/CD, cloud principles, lots of little changes, not this once, every 2-year giant gut-wrenching change. So Live Protect is a bridge between more frequent updates. but it is not the complete answer, right? It's just a temporary kind of like emergency measure. The right answer is more frequent updates. And what I think I'm really excited about is the work that I've seen Anurag and team are doing with digital twinning.
Anurag is our leader who runs the workplace technologies business.
And DJ and team who runs the AI. We have an AI agent that is a CCIE, right? And so if we can use this to help streamline and automate the automation and the upgrade process, take this in totality, better quality software, right? A goods foundation that we're starting from, Live Protect bridges the gaps, and then AI-powered, more frequent updates. That's how we get ahead of the attackers.
Yep.
Infrastructure that isn't running 2-year-old vulnerabilities, right? But it's moving more like your iPhone. When's the last time you updated your iPhone? I don't even know.
I don't even know because it's like it just
It
doesn't.
worked, right? Yeah.
So Kevin, what are you most excited about on the things that you've built, and what are you most excited about the things that you're going to build?
Yeah, I mean, we actually haven't talked as much about the deep infrastructure components, but I've been doing this for decades at this point, building high-end systems at Cisco, all hardware-based forwarding.
Piece of trivia, because Cisco is the only job you've had, right?
Cisco is the only job I've had, and
we're going to keep it that way.
For parts of 4 decades. So I'm looking to get to 5 decades soon. So.
But you're only 25. Like, how does that even work?
Started really young. No, so if you think about these infrastructure components, we used to build a new chip every 4 years, and it would take us 10 years to roll it out across these companies. If I look at the pace of change that we're driving with AI, we're releasing new silicon every 18 months. We're building chips now that are denser than entire rooms full of systems that we had even 5 years ago. And so what excites me is the engineering innovation and the pace of change and the fact that we own all these different components. So we're not waiting for somebody to deliver us a piece of silicon, we're building it. We're not waiting for somebody to figure out how we connect these devices together, we build the optics. And by owning all these technologies, we have the ability to put them together in ways that people that are piece parting and buying from bins and trying to pull them together can't do. And then on top of that, I can grab security technologies and bring those in and bring networking and security together in ways that you can't if you're just binning parts from a store. And so I'm excited at what we've done. I'm excited at the growth that we've seen. But the next couple of years is going to be an immense amount of growth and an amazing pace of change. And we feel like we have a lot of the tools to drive that.
Let me tease a topic here. Jeetu, you made the analogy of because Cisco owns the silicon, the software, the system, all the way up the stack, has that sort of Apple feel. And boy, remember the SE30, right? It was back in the day. It was just a beautiful machine because of that level of integration. So I'm going to argue that our switches, you can see it and feel it, touch it today. Use a Nexus switch, it's because of the programmability and the optics and all of that. But when you take things that you talked about, I'm going to argue the next kind of unit of measure here, it's the whole rack. I think that in the time frame, Kevin, you just talked about, like customers are going to buy data center by the rack. You don't piece them together out of boxes anymore. There's going to be liquid cooling. They're going to have these direct to optics. And so that...
Talk about Secure AI Factory for a second.
That's the answer, right? Okay. So our version of the rack is a Secure AI Factory. It is the compute, the network, the storage, and importantly, the network services. And what's the number one network service, in my opinion? Firewall. Firewalls are a pain in the neck. They're cumbersome. They're hard to use. We just make it magical and easy and built it in there. And then load balancing. And Cisco has all these pieces.
And things like the security for agents and AI defense and observability and that entire stack. And so how real is that? And when does, how do customers go about buying it?
I mean, first of all, it's real. It's deployable today. We have customers that are buying these technologies and building out data centers today. Going back to the ease of use thing, what we've tried to do is build these concepts of pods and put things together in groupings that allow people to deploy for training workloads or inference workloads and give them a blueprint for exactly how to roll that out. And so it's something that we see deployed today. We're going to see even more of as more and more of this infrastructure moves on-prem.
Yeah, Splunk pods.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. People were deploying a lot of Splunk, and they needed AI, and so we put that together into a blueprint, and it's off and running. So it's...
So here's a question I'd have for the three of you. What are questions that you would wish customers would be pondering more and asking more about? And where do you think Cisco is most misunderstood?
So one that I've seen in discussing with customers is that they view that the template that NVIDIA's had now for a few years, which has been a good, the SuperPod, it's been a sort of just rinse and repeat motion, that is going to be the de facto moving forward. And they look to existing solutions that have been out in the market for a while often. The question that it's the time to ask is, how are things like the new inference architecture is going to change that? And what we're seeing is, there's a range of new inference accelerators, not only NVIDIA with Grok, Cerebras, a range of other companies, and how you put together the GPU with that inference means that you need to have flexibility in the architecture. It means that even where the final unit might be a rack level to what Tom's saying, but it might not be, for instance, a full NVL72 with the scale up going to the hundreds of GPUs in one shot. Ethernet starts to play more of a role in that, potentially in the handoff between the accelerators and the GPUs. It's also playing a bigger role where storage is becoming a bigger topic. You have these very large contexts, and putting those into storage at high performance on that front end network we talked about earlier can be a big deal. So going in and thinking about how you have leverage, if you have Nexus or other architectures today, how can you leverage your network as you expand to these? How is this going to change? And maybe the pattern is not going to be as simple as this existing SuperPod just repeated for the next forward couple of years.
Tom, what do you wish customers asked more about, and what do you think we're most misunderstood about?
I love this question. I wish they would ask the question, where does security go? Because in the conventional thinking, security goes in a box, and that box lives at the edge of the network. It's usually called a firewall. Firewall, IPS, fancy box. In the Cisco model, when we're delivering an integrated solution and we're thinking holistically about the data center, you know where security goes? Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just
right?
fused into the fabric.
Fused into the fabric. And so examples of this is we have smart switches, which can allow each individual port to be a little tiny baby firewall. Super fast layer 4 firewall that can do really great segmentation. Another example, isovalent. We can see every single east-west transaction, every process that initiates a connection, every process that terminates the connection. That data exists today, but it's 1,000 times more than you could look at. But with the integration of isovalent into Splunk, all of a sudden we can see that without burning up some gigantic ingestion bill. And I believe that level of east-west inspection is going to allow us to run the infrastructure more efficiently, find problems more easily, but more importantly, find the bad guys, right? In that post-Mythos world where the bad guys are in, we have to identify lateral movement, and looking at the process level is the way to do it. So,
and what do you think we're most misunderstood about as a company?
People don't think we're a security company. We're the networking company. And I think what's exciting about this world is that we're taking security and we're transforming it by fusing it into the network. We're taking compute and we're transforming it.
It's interesting because you cannot be a networking company if you're not a security company, except that we're the only one who is a secure networking company in the world. Everyone else actually doesn't have that kind of part of the stack.
It's our clear advantage.
Yeah.
I don't know, for me, it's connectivity. Like the exciting thing about AI is, like Will described, the architectures are changing and the network is becoming that critical component in gluing everything together, and we are the network company. And so it's an exciting time to be building networks and fusing security, and I'm having fun.
Any questions that I didn't ask that you'd want our audience to make sure that you addressed?
Well, I want to start with one. If you look at the vast majority of AI workloads today, where are they running? In the cloud. And if you look at kind of the life cycle or adoption from a kind of a business standpoint, we're in that kind of early adopter phase. Jeetu, you were right on the tip of the spear. You were the first guy with AI coding, everybody go, right? Literally flogging us, go. And then we got the bill, and I was like, whoa, stop.
No, we haven't
not stop.
I know. But it's
stopped.
All of a sudden, we had the
But you're
realization.
seeing that in industry. There's a move towards
optimization, right? And so and I think that the right answer is going to be very much of a hybrid model where there's some tasks you want to put on the fancy latest and greatest model, but there's other tasks that are super valuable tasks, like implementing dark mode. Do you need the frontier model for that? No. And so understanding tokenomics, understanding what things cost, and then having the ability to kind of blend an on-prem open weight model with these frontier models, to me, that's the only answer. And Cisco's uniquely positioned, I believe, to deliver.
And
on
you
that.
have to have inferencing everywhere. It can't just be in the data center. It has to be.
That's
in your
super
desk. It
exciting.
has to be-
Super
yes,
exciting.
That changes everything when the inference is at the edge.
Correct.
In addition to the data center.
Yep. Yep.
Well, gentlemen, thank you again. And I have to say that what the teams are doing right now is a proud moment for Cisco. And thank you for all the leadership that you've all shown. And I think we are just getting warmed up. We're just getting started. There's so much more that we're going to do. And the pipeline that we have from the chips to the agents is nothing short of spectacular. So
Yeah.
while
Stay tuned.
people are like, well, can Cisco keep this up? I'm like, we're only going to accelerate it.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
thanks again.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.